What's up, guys? Today we are with Ailaina in the Beyond the Cleats podcast, and today we are talking about self-worth and finding self-worth beyond the game, because I feel like as athletes, I know because I was one of them, we put so much, there's already so much pressure with performing that it becomes all-consuming. Performance and your value as a player. And I know I personally experienced that, where it's like all your value just comes from the game. My freshman year, boom, it was eat, sleep, softball, academics, and you take softball away, it's like, what am I? What do I do?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good topic. And when you said, hey, this is something we should talk about, I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. It's piggyback right off of our identity episode from last week too. So I think it's really cool because I guess, knowing your own value and worth outside of athletics as an athlete is something that's not taught, or it's not even really talked about, right? Like,
Not
I don't think
really.
I was ever...
No one told me about it. Nobody talked about it and said, hey, by the way, you're going to put all of your worthiness and self-worth into your sport, and when you can't perform or you have an injury, you're going to feel really, really bad about it.
Yeah.
And, like, worthless. Injuries, I feel like injuries is, like, the easiest one. Because it's like you immediately take it away. It's like, I am worthless. And that sounds super dramatic, but it's like, that's, your value is gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, certainly. And I think, like, a lot of the time for at least athletes, like, your sport is your outlet. It's your way to, navigate the challenging parts of life, to cope with the things that, like, you don't necessarily know how to, because you're, releasing those chemicals when you're going to the field or you're training or you're doing whatever. Like, it's just an outlet that, can be healthy or not healthy. You have to balance that both ways.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
But injuries is definitely an interesting topic because, I've had so many injuries. There's like,
how many ACL tears?
Or
minor tears?
So I only tore my ACL once. I got 2 surgeries on my knee, and then I've had an ankle reconstruction, 2 shoulder reconstructions. So I've had my fair share. I've had like 6.
I didn't know about the shoulder.
5 or 6 different injuries that have kept me out. Like, if you think about that, that's like 6 years.
You should like not have finished your collegiate career. I'll be completely honest.
Never.
From a mindset standpoint.
Like I, against all odds, was still able to perform, which is like a miracle, because I think if I wasn't able to play like sports in college, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know who I would be. And that's still kind of like the topic that we're talking about.
I know, we already talked about like when it stops, like, and just that loss of identity. Here's a question for you. What was like your first, I don't want to get too much into the injuries because that's like a whole nother deep dive. What was like your biggest, what was the first one that was like, dang, this is like 8, like I'm out for like 4 months? And how did you react to that from a like, from a value standpoint?
I think the most monumental recovery and surgery, or like that affected me like as an athlete and like as a person in general, was definitely my like ACL. I think it's just a rigorous recovery to begin with. So it's like one of those things that's takes a super long time. Like everything else I was able to, like, with my shoulders, with everything, like my ankle, I came back like 3 months earlier than like I should have. Like the doctors were like, I don't know how you're
like, I'm fine, I can walk.
Yeah, I'm like,
put me on the field, man.
Like, I'm in a
that's such an athlete thing to say.
I was in a
put
cast.
Me on the field.
I was in a cast, and I was still shooting on the goalies playing lacrosse. Like, I was in a cast. Like, I was not supposed to be off my crutches, but I'm like over here, like, I can still play.
Like, I got it.
Like, because that's where I found value, was on the field. Like, so any aspect that I could have given to my team, to my coaches, to like anything, I was like the biggest cheerleader on the sideline. Like, all those different things, like, gave me a little bit of value on the sidelines. And I think
it's still not the same, though. It's not that same feeling. Like, there's definitely like,
there's times where it's so hard. Like, you look at your players and you're like, the people that take it for granted too, the ones that never get hurt or don't have to try too hard to be like, I don't know. I mean, I was always the one to go to the gym, do the extra work, do like the extra mile, because I had to.
Things.
I was hurt all the time. I had to. I had to prepare for that stuff. I knew it. I was always hurt. There wasn't a time in my career where I really was like pretty healthy, except for like maybe like freshman year of high school, like when I was less than 100 pounds and like
I'm trying to
tiny.
Think. Yeah.
I think that's the only time where I was literally never hurt.
It was also, I can relate to that. It's definitely like, I didn't have any like major injuries, but it was always like, for me, it was my fingers all throughout high school. I had this like 3 times. I gotta stop flipping people off, man. I'm like, God dang it. I feel like as athletes, we're very competitive. And as soon as you take that competitiveness out, you just like are, I don't know if emptiness is the right word.
Like trying to find a way to fill that void. And for me, I think that was finding competition through myself and like my recoveries and stuff like that. It was like pushing myself past like even what my, you know, physical therapists were saying or like whatever. And I think for me, I had to like, especially for my ACL, was that you can't push yourself that way. All my other surgeries I could, because they weren't, you know, they were like
little baby things.
They weren't like baby, but like I could push through them and like not have to wait for a graft to heal in my knee. Like, you know what I mean? Like that part where it's just, it takes time. All of my other surgeries, it was like, it would be like, all right, 4 weeks and that's fine. And then after that, I could grind. I could get everything I needed. And for like ACLs, you have to wait till like 4 months. Like that's
well, think about it with like you ACLs and stuff. You're like utterly useless.
I couldn't do anything.
You're essentially utterly useless, and it just is like taken away from you.
I have a story that's so funny.
All right.
Now.
All right, I have to hear it.
But it's like at the time it was like
at the time it was terrible.
Like hysterical. So if
does it have to do with like an ACL?
Yeah, so I was fresh off my ACL surgery, probably like within the first week. And
so fresh. We're talking like
on crutches, locked
stitches
out
in,
stitch everything
totally
was in.
Oh boy.
Probably still on drugs.
Feeling really pretty good.
They were prescribed.
All legal.
Yeah.
All legal.
But I had to go to class, and I was like, my teachers were like, you don't have to, but I'm like, I'm going to class because I'm stubborn, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this. It's not a big deal. And so normally I would walk to class because I was not that far. Like it was maybe like a mile to campus, and then like to class, like a mile, like all the way through, probably maybe a little bit more. I don't know, give or take. So I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm on crutches. Keep in mind, crutches, like 100%. Yeah. And I'm like trying to crutch
locked
there.
Out.
I'm like, so I crutched.
How far is like you went the entirety of campus?
Well, actually, I lie. I got a ride from my teammate to class, and I was like, perfect. This is awesome, Caroline. You're the best, by the way. And I was like, please help me. And she's like, yeah, totally. Like I can bring you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I was like, odds you can like, you know, bring me home. And she's like, no, actually I can't. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, and so I'm like, all right, I'll take.
Don't ask for help. Asking for help is the hardest thing.
It was so hard, and especially with my ACL, like I had to do it like all the time. And I was like, I had to, you know, bite my ego and be like, it's okay. And this moment was why I started like asking people for more help. So I went to class, went out, and I was like, all right, we could take a shuttle system. So I took the shuttle to the closest place to my apartment, and that's still a hike, like maybe a half a mile. Like on crutches, a half a mile is a long time. I don't know if anyone's tried to.
Were you at?
I was at UMass Boston.
Oh, you were.
So.
I've seen that campus. That's long.
It's also not handicap accessible at all. I'm on my way back. I'm crutching. I'm like, all right, this is hard. I'm like sweating. I'm in pain. Like my knee's hurting. Actually.
I was gonna say you're fresh off your injury. If any of you have ever experienced an ACL injury, I haven't, but from the patients that I worked with, like it's very sensitive.
Yeah.
Like you feel every little inch and cranny.
Muscles,
so how long did it take to get to your?
A long time, and I'm like, but I'm like one of those people that's like, I just need to get it done. It's just a mindset. Like you're fine. You're not in that much pain. So I'm crutching away. I get like probably like, I don't know how far away, like a block away from my apartment, and I'm like, I can't use these crutches anymore. I'm not supposed to walk on my leg, but I'm going to because I cannot use these crutches any longer.
A week.
Yeah, so I took my crutches. I took them to the side, and I'm walking to my apartment.
I'm just gonna judge you internally right now.
You totally can. It was not a good decision, but I was in so much pain. If that tells you anything, I have such a high pain tolerance, and I couldn't use the crutches anymore. Like I don't know what it was, but it hurt so bad. And I was like, for some reason, in my tiny brain,
being on crutches, you're just like you're locked out.
Yeah, it was just so bad. I finally like get there, and I'm fumbling with my like keys, my books, like things like that.
Sweaty.
I'm drenched.
And
yes, I'm trying to get my keys to unlock this door. No one's home. I'm like fumbling, drop my keys like 3 times in the ground because I'm like, please just let me in. Like if there was one day my roommates left the door open, this could be like the best. Could be the one. I hope that this is the day. No, of course not. So I'm like fumbling. I finally get it open, but I like trip on the lip of the door. So I faceplant into my apartment, And I'm like laying on the ground, like hard, like I just fall, and I'm like I couldn't protect myself. My knees like locked out in a brace, and I'm already like weak, and so I fall over.
Yeah.
I'm like turtled on the floor, and I'm like, my
You're just-
backpack's still on,
you're
like
just done
water
at this
bottles
point.
across the world, keys are somewhere else, the door's wide open. I'm like on the ground. I'm like had a realization. I was like, I'm not okay, and so I'm like, what do I do? Of course, as any girl that is close with their mom, I pick up the phone and I'm bawling, calling my mom.
Oh, I'd immediately call my mom.
Bawling, like
I'd be yep.
hysterical, tears down my face. And at this point in my life, I wasn't much of a crier, but like I was like, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I can't do anything. I just tried to do this." And she's like, "You shouldn't have done that." I'm like, "Thanks, Mom." Like that's awesome. Yeah, I know I shouldn't have done that. Like I clearly was not in the right headspace to it was mentally just like challenging because I was so used to being able to walk to class and do those things and like enjoy my life, and it was taken away. It was
be
like
independent.
just ripped.
Independency.
Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, well, I need to be able to like do something else so I started like challenging myself, where I'd be like, I can go up the stairs by myself. That gives me value. Like, and
Yeah.
like
The baby wins. Little
these
baby
little
wins.
things, which I wasn't supposed to be walking up the stairs either, but whatever at this point. Like, I needed to get up the stairs. But I had to lay on the floor and call my best friend Caroline back and be like, dude, can you please come here? Like, I'm on the floor. I can't pack. We were leaving for playoffs, and I was like, I can't pack. She's like, you're coming? I'm like, of course I'm coming. I'm not going to miss it.
Not come. What are you talking about?
So she's like, okay, I'll help you. She like helped me get over all this stuff, and I was like, I was so great. But that's like the best thing is like having teammates that are just like there for you, and like they definitely give me like value as well. Like I think we talked about this a little
feel
bit.
like that's really where I feel like the switch, if you can switch that flip to being like, and just understanding like I add value as a person.
Yeah.
And not as a player.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm good at what I do, but I feel like that's where it really comes into play. And injury, I feel like, exemplifies that huge divide of separating yourself from an athlete and a person.
Yeah, you're a person first, and that's like the foundation, and that's what should be the foundation. But unfortunately in the sports world, it's like you're an athlete first, you're not a person first.
Oh, 100%.
And it's not taught. And I think one of my like grounding moments as like a college athlete was my first school. Like the coaching staff was very much so like, you're gonna be a good person to be on this team. Like if you're not a good
That's
person,
kind of how DePaul was. It was very much, I think they said like, you're a person first, then you're a student, then you're an athlete. I'm like,
yep.
And it's good to hear. It's hard to do, though.
100%.
It's hard to do.
You have to foster that environment. I think it's the coaching staffs that, really have to create that and not put so much emphasis on, I guess this leads into the next topic about like stats and like performance goals and like lifting heavy weights and like,
I was such an ego lifter. Even like my freshman year, I was like, I would like size up. I loved my teammates, but I would like size them up. I'm like, listen, you're like 2 feet bigger than me, and like you can like bench more than me, but I'm gonna make sure, even though I'm half of you, I'm trying to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, certainly. I remember it, and it's like.
But that made me feel worthy. When really, you just need to kind of stay in your own lane in a sense, and
do it for yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like realizing that it's not about anyone else. It's like you versus you. And like I hear this like all the time in a lot of like other podcasters. I forget who says it, but like when I listen to them and they're like, it's you versus you. Like you have to realize that it's only you. You should only be challenging yourself against the person that you were like yesterday or the day before. And like all of these external factors, like your coaching staff, your teammates, your parents, your friends, like whoever, they're all doing their own things, and that's totally fine. The battle's against you.
Oh, 100%.
Your own monsters are hard enough. You don't need to be like fighting everyone else's battle.
Oh yeah, I think they're like just have accountability for yourself, and that's really where I feel like you get that kind of internal motivation.
Yeah.
If you're looking for external factors, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna look at those stats. You're gonna look at, those beside you, and you're gonna burn out, or you're trying to pick up someone else instead of picking up yourself. 100%, like be there for your teammates, be there, for the people around you, but you can only do so much.
I think some of my like best teammates are like players that didn't get a lot of playing time, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that makes total sense.
The ones that should have been like captains, but like weren't because they didn't play a lot or they weren't starters and stuff like that. And you look at them and you're like, I would go through a wall for you because you're always there. You're consistently always there. And that's something that I think is important to know too, is that like minutes on the field also doesn't give your worth. Like,
Oh, 100%.
I have like gone through like, you know, different teams and stuff like that. And like the best people are the ones that I like are just, they just want to be there. They just simply want to be there.
It was my freshman year. We had 2 seniors. Both, I think they definitely held similar values, held the similar like team values. Both really good players. Like if we're talking, like they were both really good. We were a very competitive team. But in terms of like side to side comparison, like one of them was just like she was on another level than like everybody. But and the player A, I'll go A and B because I don't want to give names. But player, she was just a step above everyone else. Like she was gnarly. She was an awesome player and an awesome person. And so was senior B. I'll go senior B. But she just had this light and this like spark. She didn't play all the time. You know, sometimes she'd start. Wasn't like one of our top players, but she just had a way of, if the dugout was down, just like quiet, she just had this way of like just turning it around, and we just loved her for it. And it's just
people they're able to motivate are like super
make you feel good too.
Yeah,
like that's really.
I mean, that's instrumental, especially in an environment where you need that, you know, that lift from your team when you know you're down or even if you're winning. I guess like just having people there to pick you up.
Dugout vibe, it's a huge thing. Or like sidelines.
Yeah, definitely. If your team's down, like you're gonna play probably worse. And then like the thing is, like
that's why role players are so important.
That's
role players are so important.
100%.
I go on and on. That's definitely going to be another podcast. On role playing in sport.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of this like transitions into like, you know, like realistically, I think we put a lot of value on like how our performance is, and that like in transition relates back to like mental health and like things like that for sports. And like there's been an exponential growth in athletes that are, you know, having suicidal thoughts, like or terrible. Like are affected mentally
because
and,
all
like,
they care, I don't want to say
depression.
all they care about, because it's to be honest, sometimes it's not the athlete's fault. It's just the environment that they're around. That's why there's high suicide rates, and there's why mental health is a crisis, because they're not told you could walk away from your sport tomorrow and you still have inherent value. 100%. That's the one thing my mother like would always say is like I don't she never cared how I did on the field. Like me and my dad would like, you know, talk. He would only, but I respect my dad in a way because he would only really bring it up and talk about it like if I was like wanted to talk about it. If it was immediate after a game and I had a crappy game, he's not even gonna touch. Even if I had a really good game, he kind of would like let me be able to talk about the game. But my mom, I could have the worst game in the world. She's like, "Did you have fun?" That was the one thing she's like, "Did you have fun?" Yes, I did. Okay, cool.
That's so important. And I think it's not talked about enough either. I think like I try to like say it like with my players and stuff like that. I try to be like,
that's a good, I was going to ask you, how do you push that to your players? Because you work with like a lot of older kid, collegiate kids, you know, they're already kind of maybe in a mindset. How do you kind of create that environment?
They get so stuck in their heads, and I feel like I did too. So I think that's where I can relate to them a lot. And like I know like what would help me if someone had said it to me, and I think that's what I try to give back to them, because like we'll have like pep talks and stuff. It'll be like halftime, and I'm like, I can give you all the coaching points in the world, and I still don't think you guys would be receptive to it right now because you're not having fun out there. Like, I can tell, like, you're not having fun out there. It's not fun to watch.
They get stiff.
I'm like, I can just see the stress, the energy, like, transfers from, like, the field to the, you know, whatever. And I'm like, I think to myself, like, what would I want said to me? And, like, I think one of the best halftime speeches I ever had was, like, just forget everything and go back to, like, the basics of, like, when you're 5 and you're learning the sport for the first time. And it's so, like, there's pure fun. Like, you just have to remember
it's a sport.
How this started.
It's
like,
a sport.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun.
And you're playing a D3 level. Like, we're not trying to be, like, professional athletes here. That's like, I'm trying to be, like, super real with them. That's all I try to do is be, like, super real. Like, I'm like,
it's like we're gonna be competitive.
This is gonna stop at some point. And when it does,
my freshman year, we were like, we're winning a national championship. So I can't relate on that note a little bit, but it was the same. Like, be fun, be relaxed, be loose.
No, we want to win, and that brings winning. That environment, winning thrives off that environment where you're just having fun. You see the difference between a good team and a great team is that they're able to foster an environment where they're having fun, but they're challenging each other to break the limits that they've set. You know, get even higher. That the goal is even higher because the environment so we don't care if you make a mistake. It's okay to make a mistake. Honestly, like, I'd rather you make a mistake and me point it out and be like, hey, let's do this better next time, than you to not try and, like, limit yourself and your potential because you don't even want to try to do something that may be challenging.
100%.
And that's also in sports a huge thing. Is, like, athletes are afraid to make mistakes because they're like, oh, I'm not going to get more playing time. I make a mistake, my coach is going to be like, you made a mistake, get off the field.
I want you to make mistakes.
That's exactly.
But think about it from, like, just like the pure psyche level. You make a mistake. Just like, not even in sports perspective. I make a mistake. It's bad.
Yeah.
Or even, this is actually more on, like, the academic and, like, professional side of things than, like, research. So, like, you're in academia, but you're not in academia.
Yeah.
And the biggest piece of advice I got is if you don't know the answer, if you were asked a question and you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Or like, coach, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Or I don't get it.
Yeah.
But again, it makes you feel bad. So I think the key with both in sport and in, like, the professional life is you are not your sport. You are not your job. It is a part of you. It is it is a puzzle piece in
Your
who
identity.
makes Ailaina, who makes Mina,
Yeah.
it is a simple puzzle piece to you in your entirety. Definitely. And again, I think you said it best. You are born with inherent value.
Yeah.
And if you remind yourself of that, everything else,
it doesn't matter, really.
Just
I mean,
flutter
even
away.
if it does for a second, that's okay. Like, feel that for a second. Be like, all right, well, this gonna feel bad. But, like, you remember to your core who you are. And I think that's important. It's, like, it's the identifying factor again. I feel like identifying yourself leads to value. And then, like, back and forth, they kind of, like, go hand in hand with one another. Which is why it was, like, nice to have, like, the, you know, back-to-back episodes.
Yeah, it's a juggle. It's a juggle. And it's a good juggle.
Yeah.
It's a good juggle.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, who you identify as is definitely, like, where I feel like you'll seek a lot of value from, you know? For me, like, I think, I don't know. I guess I'll ask you first, like, how do you value yourself? Like, what things give you value in life?
What things give me value in life? I would say my family, first and foremost. With them, I have everything. Without them, I am nothing. So, and my parents have just created this environment. It is actually, literally yesterday, I was talking to my mother, and she said, she's like, listen, you're not a drug addict, and you're not a stripper, even though they make really good money. So I'm not knocking that.
It's a profession, right?
I'm whatever you do, I'm gonna be proud of you. I'm not gonna, like,
yeah.
I'm like, the bar is so low.
You're like, awesome.
But it's just that that's probably what gives me value, is just Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's like whatever you
That's
choose
a hard
to do,
question.
right?
A little
It
bit.
is
You have to
hard.
really like think about it.
I know one thing that like gives me a lot of value is like doing other like things for other people, and I think in whatever walks of life it is, whether it be like as a coach or as like a professional and stuff like that. Like if someone is like you go out of your way to help someone else, like that gives me a lot of value that I don't think I would necessarily be able to just get like living my own life. Maybe I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I do.
It's
things
a
for
really
myself
like
and it's
tough
valuable,
question
too.
to be like, what gives you value? I guess, yeah.
Taking care of myself,
Taking care of
self-love,
myself.
self-care, that's huge for me too. Like I
Taking
am
care of people
regimented.
behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like I make sure I get like self-care stuff done every day because that's so instrumental in my life. And I feel like if I don't do it, my mental health is like down the drain.
That's
like,
fair. Like you have like a certain, I know I have like a certain order of doing things,
Yeah.
and that kind of keeps me on my lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great talk. This is
Yeah.
awesome. Guys, just remember that you have inherent value, whatever stressor you're going through, whatever pressure is on you, whether it's from family, friends, coworkers. You are not your job. You are not your sport. You are you, and that is enough.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time.